Oh my goodness, my heart is still pounding. Survive in advance? You better believe it.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, hey there, what's up? It's Thursday, March 13th, 2025. I'm still trying to figure out my life right now. What just happened? Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us for your first listener watch right after the game to get all updated on everything that just happened, looking ahead, all sorts of great stuff going on. Welcome in, all you everydayers, all the Discord members from Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great insiders. This episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Are you ready for a stress-free tax situation with the most money back guaranteed? Well, head over to turbotax.com today and get matched with your expert. I'm breathing heavy, guys. Are you with me? My brain is mush right now. I had so much nervous energy before and during and now after this game. Like the stuff in the pit of your stomach, my heart pounding. Pizza Sauce in the Discord had said, Isaac, I can't take a therapy session podcast after this one. And that was about halftime. And thankfully, it doesn't have to be, because Carolina uses a 14-3 run to close this thing out and beat Wake 68-59, avenging the 1-point loss in Winston-Salem earlier this year, which would have been a quad one victory had Carolina pulled it out, but they didn't. As a shout to our Discord, where we've been talking about how Carolina will roll teams, Carolina just rolled Wake like a piggy in a blanket. There you go. Shouts to the Discord. Carolina to 22-12 on the season. This is Coach Davis's 100th career victory as the head man of the Tar Heels. I'm looking in real time to see if Ken Pom has adjusted things yet. Let's see. He has. And so Carolina has stayed at 35th. They came into the game 35th at Ken Pom, and they are still there. You might have seen Carolina had moved in the net today from 40th up to 36th. Hopefully, when things refresh again on Friday morning, they will do more of that. This is a quad 2 win over Wake Forest. Despite them being on the bubble, their net ranking was in the 60s. So just out about 12 to 15 spots outside of what would be quad 1. So Carolina still only has one quad 1 win. They're 1-11 in quad 1, 8-0 in quad 2, meaning 9-11 combined in those two, which is a good sign. 7-1 in quad 3. That pesky Stanford loss just hanging out, and 6-0 in quad 4. Here's where we're going today. Here's what we always do on these live postcast reactions. By the way, if you're new with us, welcome in. So glad that you're here. If you're listening to this later, welcome in to you all as well. We're going to talk big picture stuff. We'll talk little picture stuff, nitty gritty. We'll look ahead just a little bit to tomorrow night. Obviously, the big news of the Cooper Flagg injury, that's going to be a massive storyline, but we'll do more of that on Friday morning's episode, so make sure you tune in or watch that one. We will look at what's happened on the bubble surrounding everything today. At last I looked, there were a couple of favorable results, but I haven't checked in on other stuff that's going on, so we'll have to look at that in real time together later as we carry on. And then also we'll get to your comments and questions over in the chat. Here's where I want to start, though. We're going to talk about the closing run. And there were some massive, the RJ Davis 3 to go up 4 was huge in this game. But to me, the dominant force, the dominant factor down the stretch of this game was none other than Van Allen Lubin. This guy came into the game with 7 straight double-figure scoring performances and had double-doubles in 2 of his last 3 games. And he does it again. Van Allen Lubin, 8 straight games in double figures, had 10 points in this one, tied his career high with 13 rebounds. So 10 points, 13 rebounds, double-double. But it was all the stuff he did down the stretch. He had, and by the way, with 4 fouls, did all of this with 4 fouls. So Efton Reed free throws to tie it at 57. Elliot Cadeau comes back in. Van Allen Lubin got fouled, made 1 of 2, gets a block on the other side. So he 1 of 2 at the free throw line, gets that block. He had the alley-oop dunk a little bit later. That put Carolina up 63-57. On the next possession, Jalen Withers missed a corner three, but Van Allen with a vicious putback dunk to put Carolina up 6. And then on the next possession of Wake's, Cam Hildreth drives. That dude, oh my word. But Van Allen Lubin and a couple other Tar Heels forced it off of Cam Hildreth, and Carolina walks away and then just holds on to it down the stretch. Van Allen Lubin has suddenly become wildly integral for Carolina this season. And I joked about it on today's show with Coach Pack. Who would have thunk that he would have been the transfer that Carolina really needed, or the one that was the more impactful of the two? But here it is, Van Allen Lubin, way to go. Carolina was aided in this game by a whole host of runs down the stretch of this game. Not just down the stretch, but throughout this game. There was the cold start. We'll get to that in a little bit. But once Carolina settled in, they had a 10-0 kill shot run in the first half to get back in the game. Then they had a 12-2 run later in the first half. They started the second half with a 9-1 run that allowed a 9-1 run that allowed them to take that 10-point lead at 42-32. And then this closing 14-3 run that took it from being down 54-56 up to the closing score of 68-59. Carolina's spurt ability on full display despite a struggle offensively in this game. So, for example, after Carolina went up 10 at 42-32, they had this crazy cold spell where they had a chance to blow it open from that point, and they just couldn't. They made, get this, one of their next 16 field goals before a Jalen Withers 3 that ignited that 14-3 run. That Jay Witt corner 3 was massive in this game. Thankfully, though, in that spell where Carolina was struggling to make field goals, they were making a living at the free throw line. More about that here in just a little bit. But this cold spell was not the only cold spell of the game. We got to go back to the start of the game, where Carolina scored on their second possession and then just went ice cold. It was 1 of 8 start in totality. Carolina made just 1 field goal in the first 8 minutes of this game. That's only almost the first 25% of the game. It's insane stuff there. Actually, it's the first 20% of the game because 8 times 5 is 40. So there you go. In that span, Carolina also had 5 turnovers. I mean, what a wildly different beginning than yesterday, where absolutely blitzed Notre Dame. It felt more like we were on the receiving side of that blitzing today. Wake Forest, I thought in that span in the first half, they were the aggressor, specifically their defense, and Carolina's offense just seemed out of sync, out of touch, a little bit lackadaisical, content to let Wake Forest dictate the terms of engagement, and Carolina couldn't do it. They looked uncertain of what they wanted to do. The threes weren't raining in from on high as they had been. They had to settle in, and finally and eventually they did. It was down 14-3. Carolina got it all the way back to within 2 before I think Wake stretched it out a little bit more. But just even as soon as Carolina didn't, like sometimes the team will get out to that 14-3 lead, and then the game is gone. Carolina could have folded up shop right then, and they didn't. They fought and clawed and did what they needed to do. It included an Ian Jackson 3. It included somebody got an and 1 in that stretch, if I remember correctly, and Carolina got going. So really, really important there to get that back from that 14-3 deficit. I want to go back and look at here a little bit more of what happened after the under 4 timeout, because at that point, this game was very much in question. And I had these nerves of like, all right, Tar Heels, here we go again. Regression back to earlier this season where every single game the Tar Heels played was a 1-possession finish. And it seemed like it was going to be that again, right? I felt that. I'm sure you did. I was triggered from back earlier this season. We come back from the under 4 timeout. Efton Reed's at the free throw line with Carolina up 1. He makes 1 of 2 to 57. So basically the game is tied 57 with 3.5 to go. Elliot Cadeau has come back in with 4 fouls. Van Allen Lubin is in with 4 fouls. Van Allen gets fouled. It's Harris's 5th. That was big. Juke Harris fouls out. Val goes 1 of 2 to be back up 58-57. Then there's the Lubin block on the other side, which led to the RJ 361-57. And I don't know about you, but that shot alone just gave me this massive breath of fresh air of like, whew. And I felt a calm and a peace right there. Like, that's it. Carolina's going to win this basketball game. Obviously, still plenty of time to go for both teams. But I knew Carolina was going to get it at that point. Wake Forest calls a timeout. They throw an alley-oop, which seemed silly at the time. It was over the top, and the alley-oop itself almost fell in. There was a bunch of rebounding action. Carolina tips it out of bounds, but then Cam Hildreth steps out of bounds off the blob play. Yes. What's funny about that is I laughed at Wake for going for that lob. And wouldn't you know it, this was brilliant and beautiful to me. Carolina runs their just prototypical, everybody knows it, back pick lob play from Elliott to Van Allen Lubin for the dunk. So I love it. I don't know if Coach Davis was feeling sassy and spicy a little bit, but to go from a botched Wake Forest lob to Carolina putting a 6-point lead on it with their own vicious lob was poetry in motion. I'll watch that cinema every day of the week. Then Hunter Salas hits in the lane, which was literally the last points for Wake Forest in this basketball game. Then was the Van Allen putback off the Jay Witt thing. Then Cam Hildreth lose it out of bounds. Then Carolina runs some clock. Elliott Cadeau almost runs the whole shot clock out. Didn't score, just barely. But then the Cam Hildreth wedgie, Deeks retained possession. But then, this moment that we cannot miss. Yes, time is running down. There's just under 40 seconds left. Drake Powell, once again, steals the inbounds pass. Who knows what happens there? At that point, Carolina is up 6. The game is not over. You feel good with a 6-point lead. But what I loved about it, do you remember? Carolina was dead to rights against Notre Dame. Elliott Cadeau 4-point play. Boston College had Carolina dead to rights at home. Carolina wins in OT. Do you remember those multiple defensive plays that Drake Powell made at the end of that game to win it for Carolina? It was almost identical to that. This dude impacts winning in a multitude of ways, Drake Powell. And he did not do much in this game from a box score standpoint, but once again, really stepping up. Do not miss that Drake Powell play. It was so big. After that, Wake had a couple of brain fart moments, because right after that, it was like they thought the game was over. It took a second to foul. They finally foul Seth, who goes 1 of 2. Carolina up 7. Then Hunter Salas misses on the other end. Jay Witt gets a nice rebound. And the Demon Deacons just start walking away like this thing is over, but there's still 20 seconds left. It's like, what are you guys doing? Coach Forbes is begging and pleading. I love that Carolina was the team who kept their wits about them, kept their head about them, and made winning plays while Wake was losing their minds. Finally, it didn't matter. The refs couldn't intercede in this one. We'll talk about that in a minute. So finally, they foul RJ. Of course, he buries both 68-59, and that's it. And that's all. Way to go, Tar Heels. All right, lots more to talk about. We got to talk about RJ. We got to talk about Seth helping Carolina at the free throw line in a major way. But the other thing we got to talk about is those daggum refs inserting themselves into this game as they never should have. And it was one of the most frustrating things I've seen in a long time. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at Factor. Are you looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle. Whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to help keep you fueled all day long. I love how Factor takes the stress out of meal planning, because right now I'm very stressed over what just happened with Carolina, and they do so without sacrificing taste. These meals are packed with flavor. The convenience, unbeatable. No prep, no mess, just great food in a few minutes. So eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off and use code LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. One more time, that's LockedOnCollege50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off. To get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Okay, getting back into this thing, and for those of you watching in real time on YouTube, what up? Glad you all are here. I pulled up the box score so you can see it as we talk about this thing. I'm looking at it over here on my other screen. If you're listening back to this later, again, welcome into all of you. You can just pull up the box score and look at it elsewhere. Okay, I said I want to get to Seth and RJ. With Seth, he's been struggling with the shot lately. 0 for yesterday against Notre Dame. In this one, just 1 of 6 from the field, 0 of 2 from 3. Did get 4 rebounds, had an assist, a turnover, and a block. But what I love that Seth did is he recognized the struggles that he was having, not having his touch. And what he did was said, all right, fine. I'm just going to attack the basket. And he did so over and over and over again. And so while he was 1 of 6 from the field, he still got 10 points. Why? Because Seth Trimble had 9 free throws that he took in this game and made 8 of them. The vast majority of those happened in that stretch where Carolina made 1 of 16 field goals. Seth Trimble's relentless attack of the rim kept the Tar Heels in this game when they couldn't hit from the field, and that was very critical to what happened. We got to make sure we recognize that. Now, RJ Davis. This dude, what a game. Didn't score for the vast majority of the first half. Like his first bucket, let's see if we can find it in real time here, because it was crazy the run that he went on. UNC only field goals, made field goals. All right, RJ Davis. Nothing. Is this his first? Oh, no. He made a free throw with 3:12 to go. I think that might be his first points of the game. No, he made a 3 with 4:34 to go. That's his first points of the game. So RJ makes a 3 with 4:34 to go. And so that means that over the final 24-34 of this game, he scored all of his 23 points. Have you caught this? RJ, who has been struggling all year long with his 3, has now made 3 or more threes for 6 straight games, was 5 of 6 from beyond the arc in this game. And oh, by the way, RJ Davis, 8 of 8 at the free throw line. This dude hasn't missed in forever. I need to get the numbers on it. Let me look at my stats and records sheet that I keep with all of that kind of gameplay stuff. RJ, last time he missed a free throw was when he went 7 of 8 at Florida State. So what I say, he was in this game 8 of 8, 12 of 12, 14, 16, 18. So in the last 5 games, RJ Davis is 18 of 18 at the free throw line. You kidding me? Come on, man. RJ Davis does not want to finish his career. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, let's talk about the referees, because these dudes were insane. They made this game about them. Here's what frustrated me too, is Corey Alexander talked about it, and here's what he said. This is what set me off maybe more than anything. He said, I love the consistency with which the officials are calling this game. They're allowing it to be a physical game, and here's the line. You see that there's contact on these plays. However, they're not going to be the deciding factor. They're going to let these players figure it out on the floor. You just defined a foul, Corey Alexander, and said, you see that there's contact on these plays, and yet they're not calling it. That is outside of the realm of anything that makes sense. If there's contact, you blow your whistle, because that's the definition of a foul. I cannot count the number of times they didn't call a foul, and then they want to start over adjudicating it. It was like they wouldn't insert themselves enough, and then they like compensated by doing too much. I about came out my seat unglued at this thing. Carolina kept getting fouled all over the place, and there was never a call. Perhaps the sequence that upset me the most or set me off the most was this one. RJ had a nice little layup, and I think it was Cam Hildreth, like bumps him from behind. No call. And then the ball goes out of bounds off of Wake, like right to the corner by the Carolina bench. The ref, the one that ultimately called the technical foul on Brad Frederick, said it was Wake ball and refused. I mean, flat out refused to check with his 2 officiating partners to see if they had a different look at it. What are we talking about here? Just check. They might not have an angle on it either, and fine. If that's the case, you move on, and it was too early in the game to go to the monitor for a review. But the fact that he was unwilling to even ask was the most Ted Valentine-y kind of thing that I've seen outside of somebody not named Ted Valentine. And then literally on the other end of the floor. So RJ gets mugged, no call. Out of bounds to Wake. Carolina should have had it. Literally on the other side of the floor is then that same ref calls that double foul on Elliot Cadeau and Cam Hildreth. And when you watch that replay, it's Cam Hildreth all up here with his elbow into Elliot Cadeau's neck, and we're going to call a foul on both of them. You got to be kidding me with that crap, man. Get out of it. The refs completely lost control of this game for a while, and it was uncalled for, especially in a game where Wake's tournament prospects seemed pretty much out of reach. But both of these teams are on the bubble and fighting for their tournament lives. And that's the kind of refereeing performance you're going to turn in. We can't stand for that, man. ACC got to do something here. And then ultimately, there was another foul where Venalyn Lubin is attacking the rim. He's raked, no call. Brad Frederick, understandably, very understandably, loses his mind. He's whistled for a tee. And you know what? In some ways, you could give this win to Coach Brad Frederick for getting that technical foul. Because then Carolina started to get a little bit better calls after that, I thought. Also, was so glad. Why is it Hubert Davis's responsibility to make sure they go to the video monitor to see that we got some Grayson Allen action happening? Dude, I can't with that. Anyway, referees, I don't want to see those dudes ever again. Okay, turnovers. Carolina did really, really well yesterday. Just 2 turnovers in the first half and then committed 6 in the second half. Things got a little bit sloppy, but let's be fair. That game was out of reach and out of touch. In the first half of this game alone, Carolina committed 9 turnovers. So more in the first half today than they had in the entire game yesterday. And let's see where those turnovers came from. It was pretty spread out, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different Tar Heels were responsible for those first half turnovers. Drake had 2, Venalyn Lubin had 2, and nobody else had more than 1. But that's too many. Carolina finishes the game. I think they only committed 4 or 3 in the second half. So that's not bad. You finished the game with 12 after having 9 in the first half. So it was like a flip-flop of what happened yesterday. But here's the problem. The Tar Heels offensively reverted to what happened against Duke. Just 8 assists. Same today. So 8 assists, 12 turnovers. That is not a winning recipe, meaning Carolina survives, and that's great. We'll take it. But that if Carolina does that tomorrow against Duke, game over, and now we have to sit and wait and hope for Sunday. That's what it was. But the crazy thing, Carolina only made 19 field goals in this entire game. They Wake by 9 by only shooting 33.9%. You know why? Because they went 22 of 27 at the free throw line. And it wasn't like, yes, Wake fouled once, maybe twice down the stretch, if I remember. Yeah, twice. Once on Seth, once on RJ. That's it. Just 4 of those 27 are attributed to Wake fouling late. So you can't just say, oh, of course they took 27 because Wake had to foul to keep it. No, 23 of those came before that. Really good job because Carolina hadn't had 20 plus in the 3 prior games. And so they get back to it right here. Way to go. And more importantly than that, a day after Carolina went, was it 7 of 12 at the line only? They go 22 of 27, shooting 81.5%. That's what we're talking about. Carolina 3-point shooting cooled off a little bit here today. 8 of 22, fine, whatever. Not perfect, but we'll take it. Again, 5 of those came from RJ, 2 from Jay Witt, and 1 from Ian Jackson. So the first time, I think, since the winning streak started, that Carolina has had fewer than 4 different Tar Heels make a 3. But did you hear the crazy nugget? I want to credit the guys on the broadcast, Dave O'Brien and Corey Alexander. Coming into this game, and I'm sure this is from Steve Kirshner, the SID, Carolina had made 57 threes in the last 5 games. That is the most threes Carolina has ever made in a 5-game stretch. Think about all the Carolina hoop law in history, and that's the best they've ever done, man. That is absolutely crazy stuff. All right, there's plenty more to unpack about this game. We're going to get to your comments here in just a second. We'll have a lot more to unpack on tomorrow's show, on Friday's show. So we're going to take one more commercial break. We'll come back, talk about what's next, what's on tap tomorrow. We'll look at where things are going with bubble games around Carolina, and then we'll get to your comments because there are a whole bunch of them. Stay with me. We'll get right back to it. After I tell you about our very good friends at TurboTax. Taxes was waiting and wondering and worrying, hey, am I going to get any money back? And then you wait and wonder and worry some more. Now, though, Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return while you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on whatever you're doing that day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. All so that you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert right now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See the guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantee. All right, guys, you know the deal. We'll unpack it more tomorrow. Duke was down big early to Georgia Tech earlier on Thursday. Walked through the first half, kind of like Carolina did. It's kind of funny that alignment here. Duke comes back from that 26-14 deficit, ultimately wins. I forget what the final tally was, but whatever. They win the basketball game. The hard part for Duke is they lose Malik Brown to another shoulder injury early in this game. He was taken out of the arena on a stretcher, man. So unfortunate. You hate to see that. And then Cooper Flagg comes down with a rebound late in the first half, lands on his ankle and rolls it. Has to be helped to the bench, then has to be helped to the locker room and doesn't come back in the game. He's seen in a wheelchair. John Shire, more or less, like my question was, if you're John Shire, do you even risk it? I don't. Not a chance I'm risking bringing back Cooper Flagg in this ACC tournament. Why? Duke's got bigger fish to fry, right? Like for Duke, they're set and they're comfortable. This is a small potatoes thing. For Carolina, they're fighting for their tournament life. If it was Carolina in this situation, you might try to do it. My expectation of seeing Cooper Flagg or not seeing Cooper Flagg tomorrow, like under 10%, probably under 5%. I just do not think there's any world in which that happens. But also the Malik Brown injury is massive as well, because he has been a critical factor in these Carolina Duke games. Remember, both times Carolina has played Duke this year, he's returned from injury in those games, which maybe he miraculously does so again tomorrow. I just don't see it. Again, I hate it for both of these guys. You never want to see an injury happen, but I'm not complaining about it at the same time. You know what I mean? So we'll see. What Carolina cannot do is breathe a sigh of relief because those guys are gone. No sirree. You know why? Because Duke's going to circle the wagons and say, we got to do this for Cooper and Malik, and we got to go out and win. So Carolina got to be ready for an absolute dogfight. It is helpful for Carolina, but there you go. So that'll be 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Again, we'll get more ready for that on Friday's show. Tournament updates. Right now, as we look at things, the game that is currently going that matters is Texas and Texas A&M. Last I looked, Texas was up by 9 on A&M, and that's no good. A&M has cut it down to 363-60. Actually, just switched to Texas 65-60, 4:45 to go. Aggies, I've never needed you more. Please gig them right now. That's what the Aggies say. So we're keeping our eyes on that one. Maybe it'll be final by the time we get out of here. But in other games, Carolina did get some favorable results. Arkansas loses to Ole Miss 83-80. Arkansas, unfortunately, might have already done enough to get in, but it certainly can't hurt Carolina with that happening. In the Big Ten, big helpful news for Carolina. This one might legitimately matter is Indiana loses by 13 to Oregon. That's really helpful. I think Indiana was just a slot or two ahead of Carolina in last four in. That's great. And then the one to me that is even bigger is Xavier, who had a double-digit lead on Marquette. Thank you, Shaka Smart and company. They come back and beat Xavier 89-87. That is huge for Carolina because Xavier was just ahead of Carolina as well. I think it was the latest bracketology from Lunardi was like Carolina last team in, then Xavier, then Indiana. Am I thinking about that right? And so both of those teams lose and hopefully fall back behind Carolina. That's what we're looking for. We'll have to update and see if Joe Lunardi has he updated his bracketology since any of this happened. Last update 5 p.m. Eastern, so maybe so. Yes, Carolina has jumped Indiana in Lunardi's bracketology, but not Xavier. So I disagree with that. I've been comparing their resumes. I think Carolina's resume is better than Xavier, so we'll see what happens. But nice to jump Indiana and no longer be the last team in. That's comfortable. But you cannot coast. Still got to go out and take it to the Blue Devils tomorrow. A&M just scored 65-62 Texas. All right. Let's go to the comments and see what kind of stuff we can unpack here. Don't want to wait too long. You know why? Because I got to get to my daughter's birthday party, which starts in an hour and a half. What up, Poppy Ann? I love you. She turned 6 on Saturday. Yeah, Drake Gilliland is with me. He said, as explosive and important as the RJ3 were in the Van Allen Lubin dunks, Drake Powell's steal off the inbounds play was also huge. And here's what Drake just summed that up so well, because what Carolina did, think of all the times early this season when Carolina struggled to close games with the correct impactful plays down the stretch. They did it in this game. And not was it just like one time, one play. It was like nearly every offensive possession and nearly every defensive possession after that under 4 timeout. And I was so critical to what Carolina did to win this game. So that's a really, really great point. Is anybody breathing? I'm still not breathing. Like my heart is beating. I'm like, man, it's so cool. Derek Tyson says, I need to give my neighbors a heads up. I bet I sound like a madman. Look, I'm sitting here in my office at my college. My office mates, I'm sure, were just like, Isaac, what absolutely are you doing in there? He's going crazy. But I do want to get to Derek's next question. He says, how concerned are we with Jay Wash's lack of production? We're going to need him to do more because Lubin is going to need rest at times unless we go small. And this is a great question. Jay Witt has done just a little bit here and there. He played 14 minutes in this game, scored 3 points. The one field goal he was a really nice putback. I think it was an Ian wing 3 that missed, and Jay Wash just got himself in position, and it was like Wake forgot about him, and he comes up and just gets that layup. And his other point was 1 of 2 at the free throw line. He had another nice play. Nope, that was yesterday against Notre Dame. I was thinking about, but yes, I think that is a concern. Like, let's think back to preseason when there's all this talk. I need a drink here really quick. Where it was like, man, we need Jay Witt to step up. He's going to be the dude. And really, it's been Van Allen Lubin with Jay Wash kind of fading, y'all. He's not brought it. It's been unfortunate. And so you kind of hate to see that. Ian Jackson, 17 minutes in this game. Speaking of not much production, 3 points, 1 of 6 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, did have 3 rebounds and assist. And look, it's been these afternoon games. I haven't been able to verify this, but I've seen all these reports about him observing Ramadan. I didn't know that about Ian Jackson's faith. I don't want to either confirm it or discount it until I've seen it confirmed from like an official source. We get that this time of the year from all sorts of people of the Muslim faith, right? We had it with Diarra last year from NC State. There was somebody else in a game yesterday, but here's the good news about tomorrow, because you can start eating at sundown. The game tomorrow is at 7 p.m. Eastern. And I don't know when sundown's going to be, but hopefully he will be able to start getting some fluids and food, and that will be really, really good. And so hopefully that'll be the play. All right, let's keep scrolling through here and see what else. I just want to take a couple more things, and then I'm going to let us all get on with our evening. Y'all, I'm so proud of this team for their fight, their energy, their effort. And they're just showing up. They're doing it over and over and over again. And that's really good stuff. Just lots of comments that I'm seeing, not seeing a ton of questions. So what we might need to end up doing. Yeah, a lot of people saying Carolina has 22 wins. We talked about it on today's show. The most wins in the 64-team era that Carolina has ever had and missed the tournament is 20. We've had a couple people send me. They did the research. I just want to thank everyone for reaching out and doing that. Really good stuff there. But that's great. And so we'll see. All right, y'all, here's what I'm going to do. Same thing we kind of did yesterday. I'm going to keep scrolling through after we get off, but I don't want to waste your time. And I know you probably want to get to your dinner or your supper. And so if there are other comments or questions that we need to look at in the chat, we'll do so afterwards. And I will utilize those on the Friday morning show. Ooh, A&M has cut it to 67-66 Longhorns with 3 minutes to go. Here's what I got to say. I forgot to say this, y'all. My wife, Maggie, is a big time Longhorn fan. And I love her more than anyone else on the face of the planet, along with my kids. But Margaret Ann, as much as I love you, I need the Texas Longhorns to die a death today at the hands of Texas A&M so that Carolina can go dancing. Would you just allow them to sacrifice on behalf of your dear, sweet husband? Thank you. I appreciate that. That wasn't so hard, right? Come on, A&M. Let's pull this thing out. All right, guys. If you've not subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do that now. If you're watching, hit that subscribe button right there on YouTube. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, man, that thing is going off as it always does. So make sure you get in on that. That link is in the show notes, and it's absolutely free to join. The other thing, if you're not part of the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders, you need to get in on that right now, where I chat with you one-on-one through text messaging. We have all of my stats and charts and data and records books is all in there. You have free access to it. And as we get into portal season, that's where I'm going to be dumping all the rumors and insight that I hear. So make sure you check that out. You guys, what a win. Let's go. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Let's go beat Duke tomorrow. We got to make that happen. All right. Have a great night. Maybe get some rest. Maybe Isaac, get a tranquilizer gun and shoot it into your veins. But for now, inject all that victory into my veins, despite Wake and despite the refs, because 8 on 5 in this game. I don't say that often, but this is one of them. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, both on the normal show and you better believe post-game tomorrow night. But until then, peace.